We're going to talk a little bit about the future of marketing and like what these brilliant people here think like about what's coming and what not. But why don't we start with some like we had a name introduction, but why don't you give like a proper introduction? You guys introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about. I know, but like to these other folks here, like tell a little bit about what you've been up to and what your company is about.
Lauri?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
ladies first,
Or
right?
ladies first,
All right.
yeah.
As Laurel mentioned, my name is Lauri Baker, and I oversee our strategic partnerships at Infillion. Infillion is an advertising technology company that was born really out of a merger of two companies, Gimbal, which is a marketing technology software company with location-based mobile applications, and then Truex, which is an advertising CTV technology company. And the new company combined is building a product suite that puts the consumer first in the advertising ecosystem and really focuses on creating environments and experiences that respect our consumers' time, attention, and privacy. So super excited to be here today to talk about Cannes and all things creativity.
You go, you go.
Okay, so I have a difficult name. My name is Jacek. And I represent AdFidence. AdFidence is a media setup verification platform. So basically right now when you buy media, you need to set it up in the platforms, be it Amazon, Meta, Google, whatever. You just manually need to set up frequency caps, targetings, brand safety, and so on. So we simply, for global advertisers like P&G or Nestle, we measure it globally. So we get access through API to all the accounts, and we monitor the setup and tell you where you have mistakes. When you forgot about frequency cap, where your brand safety is not on. And then media agency can easily correct it with just one click. So there's a list of items, a list of mistakes that you made. And clients, usually we see that they can save 10 to 20% of their budget simply by monitoring the setup and doing it right. So it's a kind of media buying excellence tool. And we work for global advertisers usually. Of course, for US as well, because US is sometimes like global budget, but mostly global big advertisers.
So Mohan Ramaswamy, one of the founding partners of Work&Co, and I lead the strategy practice there as well. Work&Co is a digital design and development agency. It's global, about 500 people, started 10 years ago. We primarily collaborate with large-scale enterprise companies, so we've worked with Apple to rethink all their retail stores, or IKEA on their broader digital transformation. We're working with Google on a lot of AI things right now, which is pretty exciting. We can talk about that later. And really looking forward to the conversation. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I had a panel before, so most people know me already. I'm Fernando Machado. I'm the CMO for NotCo. NotCo is a food tech company that uses AI to create plant-based products. So I'll leave it at that. Because I kind of like spoke a little bit before. I arrived here in Cannes on Friday afternoon because I had to judge on Saturday and Sunday. I feel it's already like Thursday night, right? I mean, I'm like ahead of you guys, and I know that everyone arrived at a different time. What are the first impressions? What teams you guys are seeing bubbling up? You cannot say AI because like we already checked that box on the bingo. You need to pick a different one. So I will start with you because Lauri's already thinking like, oh my God, no,
Like everyone's
my
looking
friend
at me.
here.
Do I have to go first again?
So I got in yesterday morning, so the first thing was just recovering from the flight, which, I think everyone had their own troubles getting in here. For me, I think what stood out is, there's been a lot of economic uncertainty in the last 6-9 months, and I was struck by the amount of optimism here and the excitement both around creativity, but also just people kind of getting ready to get back into it and find opportunities to better engage customers, to create new experiences, and to like celebrate all that we've been doing. So I think it's been a little bit rejuvenating, if anything, after what's been a little more of a tumultuous period than we've had since the start of COVID.
I love the optimistic view, I was not thinking about that one, but when you said it, like, oh, that's true, I felt exactly the same way.
Okay, guys. So for me, the biggest adventure so far was a ferry to Monaco yesterday. It was a strong one.
Did you call it a Did you call it a ferry?
I call it a ferry. I don't call it
ferry
a
to
boat.
Monaco.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a ferry, actually. Yeah. So it was hard. And other than this, yeah, that's a lot. I mean, you need to be choiceful because there's a lot of things going on. So yeah, I love it. Everybody's talking AI
You
and the
survived. You
future of
survived.
marketing.
You're still here.
I'm here.
You're
I'm
looking
here.
good.
So we are
Like-
all both of ferry survivors.
I think
I see the faces that I recognize still. Yeah.
I think that's the definition of a 1% problem. Complaining about a ferry from Cannes to Monaco.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Lauri,
I mean, you haven't been there, so it was hard.
All right, back to the inspiration. What have I inspired by? I have not been able to go to the Palais yet because normally I love spending time with the creative. I'm a big storyteller at heart. I love telling good stories. So I can't speak to anything from the Palais. But what I have been, I've seen it, sat in on a lot of panels, listened to a lot of people speak, and I am very inspired, at least as it relates to Infillion, around all the conversation around attention. I think we as a creative industry, now that digital is in the living room and streaming has just taken such a foothold in consumers' attention today, I'm really inspired that if we continue thinking about consumers' attention and how do we create a better advertising experience in these new world ecosystems and not just treat these new environments, whether it's social, whether it's streaming, as traditional media, and just really start to think about more creative formats that respect our customers and give them something to look forward to when they're engaging in our content, not something that they want to avoid.
how do you think us as marketeers should approach that? You know, is it about like experimenting and seeing what works? Is it about like getting better at measuring effectiveness of the things that we're doing? Is it about trying to find better creative? Is it all of the above? Like, what tips you would give to a marketeer that it might be struggling with the fragmentation of touch points and how to engage the consumer?
Yeah, you know what? I have a native advertising background as well, where it relates to storytelling, and I don't want to say that every platform has a unique user experience, and every user goes to that platform and they love it for that UX. As a brand, it's hard to take one user experience across every single different publisher and platform. So I do think that we, as the ad tech players that sit in the middle, we need to be thinking more innovatively in creating experiences, and that's really what that TrueX. Our TrueX ad format has been around for over a decade, and it sits in traditional television environments and CTV. A consumer gets into an ad pod, and it's, hey, do you want to get right back to your content? Engage with this one brand for 30 seconds, and we'll skip all the rest of the commercials and let you enjoy your show, because that's what you came here to do. And that's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the consumer, it's a win for the publisher, and it's a win for the advertiser because it's exclusivity. And so I think across the industry, we need to step up with better formats that respect that consumer's experience with whatever platform they're in. I think the social platforms are doing an incredible job. When you think of how they're bringing influencers into the ecosystem and natively allowing, consumers' favorites to bring that brand story to life, that's what we're hoping to see across the much broader video ecosystem as well.
Nice. Any builds, guys? Like, how do you see that?
So basically, I see that advertisers are confused. There are lots of platforms. Everything seems complicated, but I see a good trend that advertisers right now are taking over control in media. So they started in-housing, like big brands like P&G, PepsiCo. And they have already a big spend in in-house media teams. And now to fully control all the media platforms, we created AdFidence to simply see in one place how you're doing your media. Are you doing the media the way media agency promised or not? So the transparency, I think, is the next thing you should go for.
Yeah, Mohan, any?
Yeah, I was going to say I really liked what you're talking about in terms of understanding what the native platform behavior looks like when you're creating advertising or when you're trying to sell something contextually. As a company that's like relentlessly focused around user experience, like where we're always trying to go or what we're trying to think about is like how can we bring utility or some actual value to that kind of transaction with a customer, whether that is through an ad format or it's through an interaction or an experience that you have on a website or a purchase experience. So fundamentally, I think getting back to what is the expected behavior someone has in this context is really important as you're thinking about scaling platforms broadly.
Yeah, I would also add one of the things I love hearing about. There's a lot of talk about just shoppability in general, and because ultimately at the end of the day, right, every brand wants the consumer to either raise awareness or to buy something, and so just the conversation of shoppability and how that's being integrated and thought about it, not only just in the commercials time, but during the programming. And it's bringing interactivity into that brand experience, and that's why I think that just this, and I know we're here in Cannes, but a standard 30-second commercial on a video screen in the living room is not nearly what the end goal needs to look like.
Yeah, like you said, like raise awareness or buy something. Like I was hearing the previous panel, which there was a bit of a conversation about like where in the funnel we should go. Do you have a view on that? Like for a marketeer that's thinking about creating the media plan or creating like where to put the investment, like how do you see the funnel? And I'm asking because that's an endless debate that I have, and sometimes I work with people that they see the funnel as conversion. It's every single thing is conversion. Anyway.
We could talk 2 days about that, because every audience is at a different stage in your funnel, and so one media plan either have to be epic in your sequential messaging and using data to know that the first touch point with your consumer is going to be your awareness. The next time you see that consumer is going to bring them down a little bit, and by the last touch point, you're driving acquisition or conversion. And it's almost, I mean, I'm not a marketer, so I can't speak to that, but there's a lot of steps that have to be taken into account to effectively drive one campaign to hit
Be attacked.
every funnel.
Yeah, I was asking because like what I've seen from my personal experience is that like every time I've seen marketing teams that are completely obsessed about only bottom of the funnel. You know what I mean? Like, and they think that top of the funnel is like waste of money. And I've seen it, and when I look at the numbers, like my conclusion is that when you have a combination of things, and of course, depending on what your objective is, depending on what state of the brand, depending on your budget, right? I mean, usually when you have a combination of things, you actually can drive better conversion at the bottom if you do the whole thing.
Well, our attention spans are less than 2 seconds now? So if you're going to put an ad in front of them expecting a conversion, you need somebody to spend more than 2 seconds reading through your copy to know what they're actually doing. So you're absolutely right. You have to build awareness.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it yourself, which is like the context of the brand, where they are in their journey, what awareness looks like. I think every brand is going to have a different media mix that makes sense for who they are. And I think something we've seen that's really interesting is all these brands that originated from a DTC standpoint, where it was all performance marketing, are moving up funnel because they realize they've tapped out their audience. So some of this is just assessing where you are in the landscape, what your metrics look like, and I think planning accordingly.
Yeah, and I think it's all performance, I would say, like a conversion. But you need to define performance different for the branding campaigns, and you have to optimize for it. So it's about measures more than the different measures at different levels.
Yeah.
But it's all kind of
Look,
in
I
the same
couldn't agree
optimization, yeah.
more. But believe it or not, and you probably know that, there are lots of people out there that see it differently, right? I mean, and they think that everything is short-term conversion, and they wish that marketing was this machine that you put a coin here and you know exactly Like yeah, it's like immediately, right?
Yeah, it's a long-term game actually, especially like in FMCGs.
Yeah.
It's a really long-term
Yeah.
game. So
And like when you talk to your clients, when you talk to brands that you partner with, do you think that they approach it the right way? You know, like I don't want to put anyone on the spot.
yeah,
Like,
so I'm not gonna mention names, but right, I see sometimes that they do want to do the very basic performance, like buying brand names to Amazon. I mean, anybody would anyway find a way to Amazon if they're looking for this specific brand. So because Amazon is there already with their advertising and their natural results. So they sometimes try to do the performance, but and they in a very basic understanding. So not like we say, okay, find different metrics, find how it correlates with brand equity, how it correlates with long-term sales, and find models actually and data to optimize your campaigns against it. You know?
I think a lot of brands and CMOs on down face short-term pressures, which is what drives some of the decision making. And I think I have a lot of sympathy for that because fundamentally, the winds change. Like when the market's a little bit tougher, short-term sales all of a sudden become a KPI, and that's where some brand marketing dollars or things get shifted, or you end up starting to focus on things that are more driven around a conversion or ROI immediately, as opposed to things that are longer-term brand building initiatives. And some of this is just the incentive structures that are put in place for leaders and organizations that make it hard, I think, to take more of a sustained longer-term view.
I completely agree. Look, I mean, I have AI on my bingo card, so I have to touch on that. I'm sorry. And I promise you, I do have the bingo card, and after I will send by email, I will send it real quick so that you realize that I had it, that I didn't prepare after I said it. But like, look, I mean, last year in Cannes, it was everything metaverse and Web3 and NFT, and right now no one is talking about any of that anymore. It's like it never existed. I think that, and I imagine that you also agree with that AI is here to stay. In fact, that AI was already here before it got hot. It's the same with metaverse, right? I mean, last year I was on Activision Blizzard, and on all panels, people were like, "Oh, what do you think about the metaverse?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? I play Second Life." You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? But I think AI is different. You know, like I can see a real concrete application. Sometimes my conversations on metaverse were like, "Oh, we want to create a bank on the metaverse." It was a joke that I told earlier, which is, I don't want to go to the bank in the real world. Why would I want to go on the metaverse? But because it was hot, everyone was like going on that direction, right? I mean, I know that AI has already been key part of performance marketing, programmatic, and media models. But like, do you think that because of the heat on the topic right now, that we will evolve faster? What's going to change, or is it just going to?
Yeah, I'll just say I think the difference now is the generative piece. Because now all of a sudden AI is actually generating work. And I think it's going to have a huge impact on our day-to-day productivity and being able to efficiently, effectively get things out the door faster. So, I mean, today we're already using ChatGPT in a million different ways and getting used to, oh my God, look at this stuff that it's producing. I'm going to give a huge plug to Vimeo. I do not work with them, but I just saw on LinkedIn today they launched a video production suite product, and it's based on ChatGPT, and it was the CMO, and she did a little exercise, and she was like, I'm the CMO of Vimeo. I need a 2-minute video script on the launch of our new product. And it sput out a script, and this suite is a teleprompter. It's an editing suite of the script. It cuts out all the ums and ands, and you can edit the script, and then you film your video, and you can she did it all in literally like 3 minutes. And when you think about the productivity of just being able to articulate what you're trying to say, whether that's in a creative brief, or putting an RFP together, or how to respond to an RFP. Hey, I'm putting an RFP together. So I'm talking about the from the sell side. what do I need to know about this brand? I mean, there's so much we can do with a generative piece of AI that we did not have access to. That's what's so exciting to me.
I would say, I mean, everybody thinks that it's going to be easier, but I mean, we forget that it's all relative. So everybody's going to start using it, and anyway, somebody will need to decide what shampoo to buy, relatively. I mean, so if everybody gets better, then somebody needs to. Yeah, the bar will grow. So this is one thing. The other thing that I'm kind of afraid of is that because it got to the masses right now, and everybody understands AI, and everybody seems like, wow, yeah, AI, okay, tick, I like it. That some, let's say, like media platforms like Meta, Google, and so on, they will try to trick advertisers, and they will say, forget it, just tell me your brand name and how much money you have, and I will do the creative, I will do everything. So they would try to, and they're already doing it slowly, like with Performance Max and Google.
You're afraid of that?
Yeah, I'm really afraid of that because this is this going to the direction that they will optimize mostly their profitability.
I'm afraid of my CFO sending me assets. You know what I mean? Like that he created a Mid Journey and ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's gonna be yeah.
You're about to say something, Lauri.
I was just gonna say, Facebook and Amazon are already
They're already doing
open.
it.
I mean, their platforms are already open up to anybody in the world who says they're a brand and a marketer and put a product up there, whether it's real or not. So, I mean, there's already a lot of fearful things in our ecosystem. This is one more that we have to be very conscious of and use responsibly. But, you know, in its infancy, it's been amazing to, at least as a consumer, to have the first kind of peek under the hood as to what it can do.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I mean, I think it is the natural next step. The generative piece is certainly one part of it. I think the democratization of it and what happened with ChatGPT is what kind of accelerated everything a little bit more. I think for us, like, sitting at the edge of design and technology, we're really optimistic, especially in the short term, about what it can do. And there's, like, a lot of different experiments or client projects or things we're working on where it could be thinking about what a next generation customer experience looks like, how you actually think about text and image and video assets from a production standpoint. It could be your own internal workflows where things that used to potentially take, you know, weeks, you can do in days, and that means that really what's going to matter at the end is getting back to creativity and getting back to something that's distinct. If the bar is higher, I think that's great for all of us because it means we get to spend less time on the rote production work and much more time thinking about what we can do to make a brand really different in their ecosystem.
I love that. And I wish everyone I knew understood what you guys just said. And honestly, like, because like, I fear that sometimes some people take it as a numbers game, you know, like, and they don't have criteria or a filter for quality of the work. You know, it's almost like they delegate the decision making or the point of view to whatever Darwinistic model they use in terms of the assets. And when you guys explain, you talk about creativity, you talk about doing more, you talk about raising the bar, which I agree, that's exactly what's going to happen. And then if everyone is using the same tools, what's going to make the difference? I think that the human,
data,
yeah,
data
and
you
the humans and
teach
your
the tools
creativity.
on.
Yes. Thank you. There is no boat tonight. Relax. We'll be fine.